Alright, welcome back to the channel. Sorry if I feel a little bit stuffed up. My nose has been a little bit of a mess all day. But we're now finally getting to the weekend. It's the day before you have Darian Mensah and the Duke Blue Devils going back to New Orleans to play the Green Wave in a game that has so many storylines to it. I'll just start on how both teams were last week. Tulane kind of had a near slip-up with South Alabama. They were basically a 10-point favorite going into that game. Ended up winning by 2 points on an interception in the end zone on the 2-point conversion drive, where they were up by 16 points with 10 minutes left in the game. But they struggled trying to handle the run game for Kentrell Bullock for South Alabama and dual-threat quarterback Bishop Davenport, who ended up having 63 yards on the ground. But yeah, they struggled with the dual-threat quarterback and the running game in general. They're outgained by 15 yards. But yeah, gave up over 400 yards on the game to South Alabama, to the point where the only game on the first 4 games of the season that wasn't against a Power 4 opponent, they almost got beat on the road. You do think for the fact that it's a bunch of new faces with 50 new players on the roster between 16 recruits and 34 transfer portal members, you figure it's like there's going to be a little bit of hiccups here and there from this entirely full staff of players on this roster. Now, it is concerning to where neither one of these games that you really had Jake Retzlaff really get that much production through the air. Neither time Retzlaff had over 200 yards in the air. Yes, also in this game, you did include one team that had 5 turnovers. Unfortunately for the Blue Devils, it was them and not the opposition. The Northwestern Wildcats are likely going to be the worst team in the Big Ten, if not one of the worst. We'll have to see how teams like Purdue or maybe Rutgers are going to end up being. But yeah, Northwestern's going to be bad. Illinois is the number 11 team in the country. Illinois started to prove that ranking for controlling the ball 36 minutes of the time in that matchup against Duke. Luke Altmaier had 296 yards and 3 touchdowns on 22 of 31 passing. And they were able to eventually get a bit of a running game towards the end of this game, mostly fourth quarter, where 6 of their total runs ended up totaling of 116 of their total 127 yards. And while the final score of this game is far from how competitive this game ended up being, the end score was a blowout, 45-19. The Fighting Illini got that win for the most part because kind of in the same fact as Northwestern in the second quarter of the Tulane game, Duke had a stretch of 3 straight possessions of fumble, interception, fumble, and 1 touchdown possession. And Illinois scored on each one of those, really kind of starting to put that game out of reach. One of those being a Mensah interception, one of them being a Mensah fumble. On the whole, Duke ended up having 5 turnovers on the game. It was 4 fumbles and 1 interception. Whenever the Fighting Illini control the time of possession, 36 minutes of the game, your defense is not going to be able to hold up very well as a whole. And it took a while, but they finally got Caden Fagan, Khalil Valentine, and wide receiver Hank Beatty to get some rushing production and really kind of put this game out of reach. Mensah himself, outside of the turnovers for the Blue Devils, it was actually a good production by the numbers. Mensah, 23 for 34, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yes, he had a fumble lost. It was 2 fumbles lost, and he was sacked on both of those fumbles. So the numbers in that way, both games, the game against Illinois and the game against Elon, both times over 300 yards, 389, 3 touchdowns against Elon, both times conveniently throwing the ball 34 times, my bad. Mensah's going to hold the ball. He is trying to throw the ball downfield. He's going to take sacks off of it. He's going to get outside of the pocket to try to make the big play. That does end up leading to a lot of potential for sacks, a lot of potential for lackluster control of the football to where fumbles can happen, as you can see from a few of Mensah's losses. Per attempt, you thought 9.5 yards per attempt was good last year. It was one of the best in the NCAA and actually the top one of any returning in college football. He's been even better on that this season, where he's over 10 yards at 10.6 yards per attempt. So a lot of the issues for Duke is not related to Mensa's ability throwing the ball. It goes to his ability to protect the ball. It goes to the ability of Duke to be able to sustain drives, to be able to keep their defense fresh through the elongated portion of the game. They're going to get some very short possessions as a whole because they are going for those big 15, 20-yard gains. Like, if you go off of their receivers, that's some of their top receivers off of it. Cooper Barcade, the transfer from Harvard, 88 yards on 4 receptions, 22 yards like reception. Chase Tyler had a 62-yard catch in his only reception. Andro Anthony, who was a transfer from Oklahoma, 12 yards of reception, 2 touchdowns. All of their receivers in this game, their average per catch was 11, 12, 13, 17, 22, 62. They're throwing the ball deep. They're trying to make short possessions. They're trying to get the ball to the red zone very quickly. And the other problem on that, there isn't a consistent run game for this Blue Devil team. For neither the game against Illinois or the game against Elon, they did not have a running back have over 7 rushes for the game. Yes, they had a bevy of selections to go through. Senior DeQuez Moore, 13 carries, 74 yards amongst the 2 games. Anderson Castle leads the team with 80 yards, a transfer from App State. Peyton Jones, 7 carries, 28 yards and a touchdown. And incoming freshman who is actually local from Mandeville, Louisiana, 10 carries, 52 yards. At that point, no one's really has set themselves up to be a lead back, to be able to be that consistent one they're able to count on. But it's not an issue for this team to be able to score. I say that, but they had 2 long extended drives against Illinois in the first quarter that only end up leading to 2 field goals, one being for 52 yards and one being a 92-yard drive. It's an issue for this team to be able to hold the ball for an extended period of time, which is kind of the opposite of Tulane. They're trying to run the ball basically a 60-40 split between Retzlaff himself, and then you're going to have transfers to Barry Mobley come in and have 2 touchdowns on the ground against South Alabama whenever he had 11 carries for 82 yards. They had freshman Javen Gordon, who he had actually decommitted from Duke. He had 15 carries for 80 yards. And then Retzlaff himself, 64 yards and a touchdown. So even if they're not able to get Maurice Turner back, they have 2 or 3 other guys. That's not even including their top returning back in Arnold Barnes III, who's kind of fell down a little bit lower in the depth chart. But with this case, even though Hayes wasn't a factor in this last game, he's still the leading receiver on the team. You have Bryce Bahaman, Justin Reed, and Johnny Pascusi are starting to fill out more of the tight end game. But this team is a run-first team. As a whole, they've run the ball 87 times, that's also including runs by Brennan Sullivan. And then they've thrown the ball for 34 completions. It is one thing that Tulane's ability to consistently press in the run game, it's going to end up running this Duke defense down. Now, as a whole, Duke's defense, they're not very good statistically as the base numbers. They give up 347 yards a game, which is 85th in the country. A lot of this is going to be based off of heavily that Illinois game, but 31 points in the game, 111th in the country. They have Nick Morris, senior linebacker, 3 tackles for loss against Illinois. Senior defensive end, Vincent Anthony Jr., who had 3 sacks against Illinois and the 4th against Elon. Sophomore linebacker Kendall Johnson, 2.5 tackles for loss and a sack. Chandler Rivers, cornerback senior, 2 passes defended. One of the few people who was able to do something to stop any of Luke Altmaier's production through the air. And the fact it took a while for the Illini to be able to get anything on the ground in general, and mostly were one-dimensional with Altmaier through the air. They held the Illini to negative 5 yards rushing in the entire first half. Whole for the season, they have 20 tackles for loss and 7 sacks combined through this entire team. So going into this game, this is on a neutral site field. Duke would likely be the favorite. Right now, it's a 1.5 point favorite for Tulane, being a home game. One issue that Mensa had Whenever it was with Tulane, it did start to carry over through Duke's early season woes. Tulane only had one win last season whenever they had multiple turnovers in the game, and it's also the only game that they lost a turnover battle. And in that case, it was a 52-6 win against Temple, and Temple wasn't very good. In the same way, they lost the turnover battle against Illinois. They got blown out. They won the turnover battle against Elon. They had a considerable win. So, trying to make this Duke defense be one-dimensional and fully rely on Mensa again. Tulane has been able to get significant pressure, especially in that Northwestern game. Not very much against South Alabama. So, it is a tale of two games on this. So, you have to wonder, is it going to carry over against another Power 4 opponent? Now, you think if they can start to pressure him, force him into any mistakes, make him force opportunities for Mensa to be careless with the football, being able to set up short possessions, be able to set up drives that the Green Wave can push through, establish the run game, don't give up on the run game if they don't have early success off of it. This is a very talented defensive line for the Duke Blue Devils. And then Duke trying to make up for their limited offense last season, they paid a lot of money to get Mensa on board. According to a lot of sources that I've heard, he may have the highest monetary NIL value for this individual season. What I've heard is it's a 2-year, $8 million deal for Mensa. If I was him as well as he was for Tulane last season, I don't fully blame him for taking that deal. But this is going to be a good game, both sides of the ball. It should be close. It's going to be one. It's going to be a night game, unlike the Northwestern game. Also, taking from John Summerall, Tulane's head coach, this is going to be a fun matchup. Duke's offense, if they're able to run or not, it's going to be an exciting one to watch. But looking forward to see Mensa again. Looking forward to see if this offense can grow for the Green Wave. And if Retzlaff gets more comfortable and this right side of the line can hold up against a very strong pass rush and a strong front seven for the Blue Devils as a whole. But yeah, it's going to be a close matchup. It's going to be likely in the 20s, if not the 30s, because Mensa can make some scores real quick. And then hopefully Tulane is not having to try and catch up through this game. That works to their disadvantage. But looking forward to green versus blue, and we'll see how it goes. See if the Green Wave can get to 3-0 going into Ole Miss, and then getting 2-0 against Power 4. And even after that, likely going to be even more the favorite to being a playoff team. But yeah, outside of that, thank you all for watching. If y'all enjoy it, please like and subscribe on it. More videos coming out soon. More reaction for how this game goes, likely through the weekend. But thank you all for watching. More videos coming soon. Likely going to be more often just going to be the games that I physically cover in person, and trying to do a bit of Saints coverage as well. But I'll see y'all next time.